Hey everyone, how you doing? The team of people that represent the city of Oakland that are working on Coliseum are as follows. Mark Sawicki, he is the Workforce and Economic Development Director who was newly hired about roughly 2.5, 3 months ago. A. B. Henry Gardner, who I worked for when he was the Oakland City Manager. Now he's a consultant to the city. John Flores, who I also know very well, who was at one point the Emeryville City Manager. Claudia, Cappio, who is the new director of the new director of planning. I was hesitant because she's actually the new old director of planning because she's been here before and worked for Jerry Brown at the state level. We'll get to that in a second. Pat Cashman, who worked in economic development, I've known for years, who is now a consultant, acting as a consultant to the city and has worked as a consultant on behalf of the county of Alameda. Dan Rossi, attorney who has worked for the city of Oakland for years. And then, of course, Barbara Parker, who is our current elected city attorney, as well as Sabrina Landry, who is the new chief administrative officer representing the city of Oakland. And that rounds out, those 8 people round out the Coliseum city team. Add to that Jerry Kaiser of Kaiser Marston. Kaiser Marston was hired about, I think, May 7th of this year to evaluate the proposal that New City Development, along with the Raiders and the A's, because they're listed as negotiators jointly, okay, in closed session, brought forward. Now, I want to clean up some messes that the media, because they didn't do any digging and they don't talk to certain people and they pretend to be journalists but aren't, didn't tell you. First of all, Floyd Kephart has been in constant negotiations regarding the sale of land as part of his proposal for several months. And the head of the Joint Powers Authority, Scott McKibben, and Rebecca Kaplan, representing the city of Oakland, and a number of city officials have been involved in various meetings with Floyd Kephart and his team regarding various deal points and how to think about those deal points and how to change them. So what was leaked wasn't new to anybody that had worked on the project before. And I was actually told that Floyd, I was told this 2 months ago, and I've said this in another video, that Floyd had submitted a proposal to buy part of the Raiders, but had said the Raiders weren't going to use that money to pay for a portion of stadium construction. They're going to use it to basically pay off the existing holders of that 20% of the Raiders that they're trying to sell off. All right? Now, the truck I have with the way this deal team is structured is that they all consist of bureaucrats, the majority of whom I know personally for years. And a task force would have consisted of outside experts, like, for example, hotel development consultants and developers that may have wanted to have a seat at the table to evaluate the plan and present their own, okay? Because we would have been able to word the ENA properly, reword it so that we would have a task force with the right experts. But the whole point is that this group is not the kind of group that actually builds things. They sit back and they say no. They're bureaucrats. They will say no sometimes without even evaluating a proposal, like mine. And they'll look at it and they'll say, well, I don't think that can work. But if you ask them at the table, can you provide evidence that you have actually calculated an estimate of the market that proves this won't work, the answer would be no. And they would start stuttering. I know, because I've met many of these people before. I know them. I've known them for decades in many cases. Okay? This is not the group that's going to get you the stadium. It's the kind of team that you put together when you're evaluating a common development project, not so much a stadium. Now someone would say, well, wait a minute, Kaiser Marston is working on Inglewood, and they've worked on a number of projects that involved NFL stadiums, including Levi Stadium. So what are you talking about, Zenny? What I'm saying is that if you drill down at what Kaiser Marston has done, they basically have taken, in many cases, studies that have been done on those same development projects by other consultancies that have better expertise than they do, and they've basically regurgitated that information in their own documents. All you have to do is look. All you have to do is look. By contrast, my plan calls for the Oakland-Alameda County Joint Powers Authority to essentially be the developer. That means you need a new team of people. And that means you need to rethink differently beyond the bureaucrat, to people who actually have done deals and been there. For example, of all the people that I've quoted you regarding in the deal team, not one represents a private investment banking firm. Think about that, okay? Not one. So at what point are we going to get to where we really say, hey, are we really thinking for ourselves how we can actually do this? Or are we just allowing one person, Kephart, to throw out a proposal and then say yay or nay, and then not look at zennies at all except to say, well, I don't think that'll fly without any analysis? Because I can tell you folks, they have done zero analysis of my proposal. Goose egg, zero. Big fat nothing. Okay? And I say all that to say this. First of all, I'm getting a maniacal joy out of seeing the city do this the way that it does, because once again, it's not going to turn out properly. I'm not saying this to make myself, a kind of a hero or anything. I'm saying it because I'm really pissed off that the city consistently does this. And I'm also quite upset that the city has essentially degenerated into one that's ran by activists and not people who want to really build cities. Well, let me rephrase that. It's run by activists and not city builders. Okay? And so it's content to let the developers, any developer that maybe contributes to a political campaign, build the city. I know that's a harsh statement, but it's true. We have not, and this is a momentary aside, as a city, gone out and tried to bring in a manufacturing company, and manufacturing companies still abound around the world, to fill any of those empty plots of land in West Oakland where a great manufacturing plant could go for bicycles or cars or anything else. We've stopped competing. Note that all the development that we do is housing. It's not so much that we need or don't need the housing. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about we have lost the ability to know how to create jobs in this city. And in order to know how to create a job, you have to understand how to be a developer. And in order to understand how to be a developer, you have to have the mindset that says, how do we get to a yes? How do we build things? This group doesn't have that mindset.